Welcome back to The Last Word with me, Justice Malala. Our guest now is the KZN ANC Provincial Secretary, Mdumiseni Ntuli. Mdumiseni, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us after a hard-fought election. You've given a press conference today. You've given lots of interviews. In all those interviews, you talk about, we lost in KZN because of service delivery, because of the king, because of Shambe, and so forth. So many reasons, so many reasons. I want to ask you about one. In July this year, in KwaZulu-Natal, looting started. Members of the ANC were on social media saying, wow, this is Aikale, Aikale. I put it to you that the ANC lost in eThekwini, in all these municipalities, because the ANC didn't stand up for law and order and the rule of law.
Well, Justice, good evening to you and the viewers at home. I think the first thing that I need to respond to in terms of your comment is that I don't know where you're basing your argument that it was members of the ANC who stood up and were using social media and other platforms to say, I can't. I'm quite aware that there were people who were doing that in the province, but I'm not sure. How have you made the determination that indeed these people who were doing all of that were members?
I can give you one name. Dudu Sambutla Zuma was doing it. She's a member of the African National Congress.
Of course, that could be the case, but you were generalizing. You were just
I've given you a specific name now.
Yeah. Now, the second point that I wanted to make is that I don't think you are correct when we say the ANC did nothing about that. When this looting began, we were the first to stand up as a provincial executive committee and said, in order to complement the effort of the law enforcement agencies in the province, which were clearly overwhelmed by the situation, we needed to go out and engage directly with the masses of our people, using our own structures and deploy cadres who are councillors and public representatives. Now, we couldn't do anything other than to do that because we are not law enforcement agencies, we're a political organization. If there is a situation in society, our own skills and tactics is to respond to that situation on the basis of the political agenda that the ANC has a responsibility to lead.
On the other hand, the IFP in that week came out and said, together with the Business Unity South Africa and other organizations, and said the law enforcement agencies issued statements saying this is a country of laws, the rule of law must pertain, and the police need to step in, and the judges were correct to act in the manner that they felt was correct in the matter of the contempt charges against President Jacob Zuma.
I don't know how was it possible that you missed so many interviews that were done by myself in my capacity as a provincial secretary of the ANC, as well as the provincial chair was also the premier, because we both condemned what was happening and we both called for the law enforcement agencies to act without fear or favor against anybody who was involved in indulging themselves in that criminality. But of course, that was the call we made, and for us it was not enough. We needed to go beyond making that call because that call was made by several people in society, but clearly it was not making any decisive impact in terms of addressing the problem at hand. That's why we went further and said we are now going to go out and mobilize our structures to be part of the shield that must be used to stop the chaos that was taking place in various parts of the province. And I thought, as a South African who was following the media and working in the media yourself, you shouldn't have missed that because we also conducted an interview with the NCA on the same question.
I put it to you that the mayor of eThekwini added to your problems in that metro by, in that week, saying that he understands, he posted on his Facebook page that free Jacob Zuma. He didn't stand for the rule of law. You yourself, on the 22nd of August 2021, and your peer provincial executive committee went to the ANC in a memorandum to the National Executive Committee of the ANC. You blamed the Constitutional Court judges for being biased against Jacob Zuma, adding essentially to the fraying of the rule of law in this country.
No. We were not adding into the fray of the rule of law in this country, or we're not acting in any way that is opposed to the rule of law. You see, Justice, there's one thing that I think many people, especially in the media, have to understand, that the judges are not infallible. They are not, they too can make mistakes. They too have differences about how to conclude certain matters. The point that we made when we engaged with the national leadership is that if you look at even the judgment of the Court, the fact that there was a minority judgment which advanced certain views in the manner that it was done, clearly gave credence to the argument that was saying this matter could have been handled in a way that is within the ambit of the law, but differently. Now, I don't think that it would be correct for you or anybody to say the ANC should not be allowed to consider anything that comes from a minority judgment. It must only be concerned about a majority judgment. Then that would not be the ANC. ANC has the responsibility to reflect to all and every other challenges in society in the context of its own analysis of what is obtaining and how best or differently the situation should have been handled.
I don't want to waste your time on an issue where we don't agree. I want to just ask your honest opinion. Do you think in any way that what happened in July has any bearing on the results of these elections that have just taken place?
It's possible that it will have a bearing. I would not be able to say to what extent did it have a bearing. The reason why I'm saying it's possible is because of the following reasons. And we said this in public, and I'm repeating it now for your own record. You know, the incarceration of former President Zuma created a huge tension on the ground in the province here, and I'm sure elsewhere in the country, but maybe the impact and the magnitude between what happened in KZN and elsewhere in South Africa may have not been the same. Primarily because of the fact that the way in which it was happening in an environment where there was a campaign led by some of the people, some of them were within the ANC and outside the ANC, who sought to project the ANC leadership of KwaZulu-Natal as a leadership that has, for some strange reasons, abandoned President Zuma and decided to turn his back on him, and therefore that's why he was going to be incarcerated. Not understanding the fact that we have our role as a political leadership, but also there is a role that has got to be played by the judiciary, which we have no control over. And because of that, there was a huge mobilization in the province that was saying, we will catch up with you. You will have to be punished at some point. You might also have noticed that at some point there was a big march. 10,000 of people were coming from the Shembe Church, which you mentioned earlier on. If you remember their message, they were very unequivocal that unless the ANC intervenes on the matter involving their leadership, the judgment day will be the 1st of November. Clearly, the ANC has no authority to change decisions of the Court. But if you mobilize on the basis of that, because the ANC is a governing party, you are bound to impact on the opinions of our people who are ignorant about the differences or distinction between a governing party and the different layers of government or different organs of the state. To think
Isn't that a bit arrogant to say people of faith can differentiate between the executive and the judiciary, that these people from the church...
It's not arrogant. It's not arrogant. I'm making a point that the demand that was made to the ANC should not have been made to the ANC, because the ANC can't overturn decisions of the Court. Absolutely. And I don't see how that becomes arrogant, because that's a fact. The call was made to the ANC. The threat to punish on the election day was not towards the Constitutional Court, was towards the ANC as a governing party. So how do you say, therefore, that this is arrogant when I'm explaining what was said publicly, which I'm sure you would have an opportunity to hear or to listen to.
Absolutely. Can I ask you, we're getting reports that there are about 200 members of the ANC marching as I speak to you now, and the report has just come into ENCA, marching, demanding that there be a recount of eThekwini because they believe the ANC has been robbed. Are you aware of this march, of these complaints?
We just concluded a meeting of the Provincial Executive Committee in less than 5 minutes before I joined this interview.
I apologize. It's apparently in Dalton.
Yeah. I'm saying we just concluded a meeting of the PEC, just maybe hardly 10 minutes before I joined this interview. I saw something on social media, but I have not had an opportunity to pursue it because it has not been formally reported to me, neither to the provincial chairperson. And as soon as I left the PEC, I had to join the interview with you. So I'm going to follow up on that issue, and certainly we'll get to know whether those are members of the ANC and what informs whatever grievance that have landed to them to go to the street.
Many people across the country, there are so many hung municipalities, hung results. What of coalitions in KwaZulu-Natal? Have you begun reaching out to the IFP or the DA or any other players? And what is your stance, for example, on engaging with the Democratic Alliance?
The Democratic Alliance does not subscribe and is nowhere near what we represent in terms of the National Democratic Revolution, because that agenda for us, as you know, is about the liberation of black people in general and Africans in particular, in order to succeed in the creation of a non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and a prosperous society. The DA doesn't subscribe to that strategic objective, which is not just an ANC position. It's in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. You know their position on affirmative actions. You know their position on a number of interventions which are intended to uplift the black people in this country and Africans in particular. So we have very serious doubt about any desire from anywhere elsewhere that may intend to say that we can have any conversation with the DA. So as a provincial leadership, we are very clear that we would not make any advances towards the Democratic Alliance. But of course, if they advance towards us, I'm quite certain that we would not say we can't talk to you. We will talk to them and say our problem with you is that you are not departing from the same direction with us in terms of the strategic direction at which we must take South Africa to. And if we can agree to that, I don't know, maybe there was something that we can work out, but I doubt very much with the Democratic Alliance.
Who are you advancing towards? Very quickly, we've run out of time.
We haven't started any advances at this stage. Of course, we know of a few parties that have acquired 2-3 seats. Some of them are made up, they were formed by comrades who come from the ANC. You've got EFF in the province. So we've got parties that, as much as we are not necessarily sharing a common perspective on all aspects of what happens in South Africa, but which I think the PEC was deciding today that the team must be set up and tomorrow we should start making some advances to some of those parties. But we haven't really formally addressed this issue of coalition with any political party as yet.
Mdumiseni Ntuli, thanks so much for your time. I really enjoyed that, and good luck with building coalitions and a peaceful and better KwaZulu-Natal. Join us after the break for our comment of the day.